Good day, I'm Gail Krantzberg, and I'd like to introduce you to the Masters of Engineering and Public Policy program. First of all, there's a need in society for this program because engineers and scientists can be really important advisors to decision makers in government, but also in the private sector, but usually they don't understand how public policy is formed or how it even works. So as engineers and scientists, you need more than just technical skills. You need a better understanding of the process of policy formation so that we can optimize economic, social, and ecological outcomes of our public policies for the benefit of society. But there is a disconnect between policymakers and scientists and engineers. So for example, a policymaker is going to ask, what's the value of this thing? Or what is a level of risk that's acceptable to society? Or why should we take action now? Because there's lots of resources we could put towards many different purposes, but why this purpose? On the other hand, engineers and scientists ask completely different kinds of questions, right? Like, how does the world work? What's the causal relationship between the phenomena we're observing? And so there's misunderstanding, there's frustration, even irritation when the policymaker turns to an engineer or scientist for advice, and really it's very likely that that engineer will think the policymaker's questions a bit trivial, like, how good is the air today? Is it a 1 or a 5? It's missing the point, like what's causing degraded air quality, for example. But it's also possible that an engineer or scientist answer to a policymaker who says, how's the air today? And then the engineer or scientist says, well, it depends on ozone and NOx and SOx. And the policymaker is going to think, you're really being ambiguous, you're being overly complicated. Just get to the point. So, introducing the Engineering and Public Policy program. We want to shape society in a sustainable future. So, for this program, we have a vision that you will become world-class leaders who will be able to become policymakers, decision makers at a local level, municipal, provincial, state, national, even international levels. We've got some of our graduate students in the federal government, in the city of Hamilton, in international relations, in the UN, for example. So our graduates become leaders because they bring fact to the policymaker. In fact, is really fact-based policy is what it's all about. So we want you to be able to communicate to policymakers and decision makers what the sustainable 21st century solutions are in a way that talks the same language as a policymaker would speak. Your outcome then is an engineer or a scientist that's a holistic thinker, integrating environment, economics, social well-being, finding the balance between competing societal priorities. We hope you become inspired leaders in the policy arena, whether you're in government, in business, in non-government organizations, in industry. You can become the liaison between the policymaker and other sectors of society because you have the technical background, but you also understand all the different challenges that are associated with making policies that are effective. The major piece that leads you there, aside from the very critically designed courses that give you the tools, is your final thesis, the research project that you work on. And you can work on this research project independently or with a group of others who are like-minded, others who want to work on the same sets of problems. So we have formulated different questions that are at the interface of engineering, science, and public policy. So you might think about AI, for example, artificial intelligence, and public policy. Are we infringing on people's rights? What about creativity? What about the artist? What about the songmaker? What about the inventor, the engineer? And then there's AI. So how do you balance policies around emerging issues, technical, complicated issues, climate change, carbon reduction, Carbon capture and storage. What's the right thing to do? Carbon tax. What is the right thing to do as an engineer or a scientist? How do you put your mind to that? And also understand economic well-being, equity, equality. So we put an emphasis on learning by doing. We provide you opportunities to frame your question around solutions that are for questions that come to us in the school. Many of our outside partners come to the program and say, we need help. We need some policy advice on the climate emergency that Hamilton has just declared, or we need policy advice on autonomous vehicles and safety. So very different types of external partners come to us and say, we need help with you. And you as students will work with external partners to solve real world problems and design it in a way that is sophisticated, that reflects what the literature says, that has practical implementation ability, and that is your final thesis, and it gives you the ability to leave the school knowing that you can tackle complicated problems that are very real by practicing and doing it through the Master of Engineering and Public Policy program. So I thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you in our program in the future.